So that happened. Wow. $19-8 against the Oakland Athletics is a score. That's for sure. The Orioles got their ass kicked today. Like what just happened? What just at 19-8 to the Oakland Athletics? Did the Orioles play baseball today? Because it seems like I just keep looking at the score. That really happened. Yeah, Samuel, I agree. If you would have said we scored 8 runs and never in a million years thought they would have lost. Is this yeah, don't panic. Embarrassing, yes. Disaster, no. There's no need to panic. This is just a bad game. This is just one of those games that you throw out. I'm done. We're past it. Let's get into it, though, a little bit before we move past it. Not sure, honestly. Yeah, Samuel, we've been on the same page recently. It's a little, hey, well, best friend action happening. I don't know. We'll see. Let's dig into it a little bit. Kade Povich. I really like Kade Povich. I think Kade Povich is a very, very talented young pitcher. This was, without a doubt, the worst start of Kade Povich's career. You can't argue it. It was the worst start of his career. He gave up walks, and what happens? We've said it before. When he gives up walks, they usually come back to bite him. 1+ innings pitched, 5 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 walks, 1 strikeouts. But that was bad. That was bad. I mean, I've seen people talking about he doesn't deserve to be in the big leagues. You know, he's not a big league pitcher. Today showed that. He's a young kid who had a really bad start. This does not change the talent on this kid. We watched him go 5 innings, 2 earned runs versus Texas, 5 2/3, 3 earned runs versus Cleveland, 4 2/3, 1 earned run versus New York, and 6 innings of shutout ball versus Atlanta in his previous 4 outings. He's a young kid. He's a rookie. He's going to have blow-up starts. Does it suck it was against Oakland? Yeah, it sucks it was against Oakland. You felt like the Orioles, after last night, and especially early on, the Orioles had opportunities. You were like, okay, is this going to be the Orioles score 8 runs? They get a blowout win? No, not what happened. Kade Povich just had a bad game. I'm not worried about him. This doesn't change my stance on Kade Povich at all. I'm chalking it up as he had a really bad game. That happens. We've had plenty of guys, good Orioles players. Grayson Rodriguez gave up 7 runs, 2 starts ago? Shit happens. Would I like to obviously see him improve on this? Yeah. And we'll just see next time. I'm not even concerned about this one. As far as in my head, this start didn't happen. We're throwing it out. If next start, same thing happens, then we can assess. Then we can start questioning of, oh boy, are the wheels falling off? Then we can assess that. But right now, after one blow-up game, shit happens. We move on. I'm going to do 1 up, 1 down. I'm still going to do it. 1 up. How about Heston Kjerstad? 2 for, is that right? Yeah, 2 for 2. Good for you. Good for Heston Kjerstad and a RBI. Didn't start the game, comes in, goes 2 for 2. Who else hit well? Austin Hayes, 2 for 4. He's hot right now. Ramon Arias, 2 for 3. Mountcastle, 2 for 5. Mullins, 1 for 5. Westbrook, 2 for 5. He's had a extra base hit, I believe, in 4 straight games. When you look at the box score, obviously the Orioles put up 8 runs. It really doesn't seem like the Orioles got their ass kicked, but oh my God, did the Orioles get their ass kicked. And my 1 down, I'm not going to go Kade Povich because that's the obvious one. My 1 down, I'm going to go hitting with runners in scoring position once again because, oh my goodness, can the Baltimore Orioles find a way when they have bases loaded and less than 2 outs to get runs in. It feels like almost a series, each series, at least one time the Orioles have the bases loaded, no outs, and they don't get anything. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's been my biggest thing that we've talked about on this show pretty much since the beginning of the year. This team seems to just freeze up with runners in scoring position. I don't know what it is, but it's what was the official 4 for 14 with runners in scoring position. A lot of those coming later in the game. 11 left on base. 11 left on base. I mean, if all 11 score, we have a 19-19 game. Now, that's unrealistic. You're going to leave guys on base every game, but the point stands of they had opportunities. This wasn't like the Orioles were going up there 3 up, 3 down every inning. Every single inning, there were guys on base. They had motion on the base paths. Let me find this tweet real quick from Ken Weinman. He said, Orioles had first and third, no one out in the first, bases loaded, nobody out in the third, and first and third, nobody out in the fourth. They got 1 run out of that. A singular run. That's the stuff that's just not going to cut it. I know, obviously, even if they get 1 to 2 more hits, it doesn't impact this game. But the whole point of this rant is this is something that has been coming up time and time again. Every time this team seems to put themselves in a position for a massive inning. Even last night, the Orioles had bases loaded, 1 out, and Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman up. Gunnar gets out, and then Adley, thank goodness, draws a 3-2 full count walk. But then the Orioles, that's all they got. You know, that they could have put up a massive inning there. Their pitcher was at 41 pitches at that point in that inning. It just felt like the Orioles had every advantage a bunch of times throughout this series to put up a massive crooked number, and they just haven't. They just haven't, and it feels like, honestly, it's been happening all season, not just in this Oakland series. You go back, how many games do they lose by 1 or 2 runs, and you're looking back and you're like, man, in the 6th inning, they had first and third, no outs, second and third, no outs, second and third, 1 out, and they couldn't get anything. It just feels like it's becoming a trend for this team, and that's what scares me most down the line in the postseason. But, I mean, it's also hard. They scored 8 runs. Towards the end, obviously, I don't think either team was really trying hard. How about James McCann? Can we get a round of applause for James McCann in the chat? That was absolutely massive. James McCann, it's always fun when a random guy, when we get to see the catchers or something. I'm sending Kevin this. Whenever we get to see some position player lob the ball in there, and then you see professional baseball players pop it up, you're like, okay, makes me feel better about myself. But yeah, James McCann, that's honestly probably, I'm going to make that my 1-up. I know I said Heston Kjerstad, but Joe, you can't get mad. That's 1 hog to the other hog. So I'm going to switch it. I'm actually going James McCann just because electric when players go to the mound. He warmed up for like an inning and a half too. Like he just kept getting up to warm up. So shout out James McCann. That was cool. That was cool. Dylan Tate. Dylan Tate's starting to worry me, guys. We obviously know 2 years ago what Dylan Tate was. We saw him when he was kind of that reliable 8th inning guy for the Orioles, and someone that honestly I was really hoping with Felix Bautista out, Dylan Tate was going to step up from injury this year, and I don't want to say take over the 8th inning spot from Cano or Coulomb or anything, but I really thought he was going to be a weapon out of the bullpen for us, and it just hasn't been that. He has a 3.1 ERA on the field. Okay, Kevin Ostreicher, how are we doing?
I saw you went live, and I was curious because the Orioles didn't play today. So what's the occasion?
Yeah, no, the Orioles did not play today. I don't know if did you see the title?
Yeah, they played baseball. That is factually accurate.
Yeah, and then the thumbnail just says that happened.
It did. We were dangerously approaching 30-3 territory. I guess the Orioles put up runs in the end, but it's like the Chris Paul hits 3 to cut the lead to 42. Like that's kind of what it was. Was there ever any inkling to you that they're just gonna do this crazy thing and they're gonna bring us back in? I think
I'll tell you during the second inning when they got bases loaded, no outs, and they were down 10-0, I was like, if they get 3 or 4 here, I was like, it's going to be interesting down the line. And obviously, I just went on this massive rant about it on stream, Kevin. But Orioles, once again, it feels like cannot get out of their own way. Bases loaded, no outs, get nothing out of it.
Yeah, I don't know what you said, but yeah, I think it's. I mean, we literally talked about it last night. It was the main topic of the show. It was like they can't get out of their own way, and sports can be weird to the point where you're right. Like they're down at that point, but if you can squander like 2 or 3 runs out of that, like I think it can change the complexity of the ball game. Now, obviously, maybe not to the point because today it was just an absolute beatdown. But again, if you're talking about like 2 runs or 3 runs in that situation, but it's just like we have the conversation where they do it, but then there are stretches where they just can't do it, and I'm just like, this offense is good enough, and that's the frustrating part for I think a lot of people is like they can't. The offense is so good, but they can't do things like this. If this was like a bottom 10 offense, then it's like okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like it makes sense they can't do this, but this is a good offense, but they still can't do it. And we're like, okay, then what's the issue? They have stars at the top of the lineup. Their 1 through 9 is incredible most days, but I'm not expecting them to go out there and like, light the world on fire every single game they play. They're gonna have stinkers, but like it just feels like this particular instance. I said it last night. We are to the point now. We are what? Quick math: 3-4 months into the season. This is a trend. This is a trend. This is no longer like, oh, well, maybe it's not. Like, maybe they just need time. No, we're too far in. This is a trend. It is concerning. You and I both, we were like 6 or 7 last night, both of us.
Yeah.
So it is. It's frustrating that an offense as good as Baltimore's cannot consistently. I mean, we know they can hit the long ball, but you can't win a World Series only hitting the long ball consistently. You have to also drive those guys in.
Yeah, I mean, they are way too reliant on the home run ball. I mean, even today, Mountcastle home run, it was even the runs that weren't on home runs, it was, well, Adley's obviously 3-run homer, but it was fly balls. Like they aren't making these, they aren't changing their approach. Like even with the bases loaded, they're not thinking, let me get this guy in. It's like, let me hit a grand slam. Like it feels like they're always looking, the Orioles are always looking for the kill shot. And you're like, sometimes you just need one. Like if you just keep passing it down the line, I'd rather 6 guys get RBIs than 1 guy try to go for a grand slam and flies out, and it's over. Like it just feels like there's a lot of hero ball at times with runners in scoring position. So yeah, I will say that is probably my biggest concern offensively for the Orioles is just the reliance on the home run ball to kind of dominate them offensively.
Yeah, I also want to preface by saying I'm not driving right now. I'm with my family. We went out to dinner. I figured I wasn't really missing anything once that game got super out of hand, so we went to dinner. So I'm not driving in the car. I'm in the car, but I'm not driving the car. So just want to clarify that. I know Rocco got into trouble a couple streams ago for his driving shenanigans. So Rocco only comes around when it's fun, right, Zach? We grind through this. Rocco only comes around when it's fun.
He only comes when he knows there's going to be cartwheels.
I know. Which, by the way, impeccable form on those cartwheels by me last night. I do have to say.
Did you? I'm assuming you went and watched it back.
Oh yeah, because it was one hand, leg up, and then the other leg maybe didn't get up as high as the other one. But I will say that heel click was probably the best heel click I've ever done in my life.
It was a smooth heel click. It was a smooth heel click.
It was. But yeah, that part is frustrating offensively. Have you talked about Povich at all?
Yeah. I just talked about how. Well, actually, Leah, let's hear your thoughts on him. I'm not going to do my spiel again. I want to hear yours, and then we can kind of talk.
Yeah, it's we had talked, what was it, almost last week, I think, about how I think we would both want Kade as a number 3 starter in a playoff series based off of who's in the rotation. Well, that kind of aged like milk, didn't it? Not great. I mean, these are just the ups and downs of a young pitcher. Like not every young pitcher is going to come up to the majors and just never have a bad start. His first start, he obviously struggled with the walks against the Blue Jays. Put together, if I'm counting right, what was it, 4 straight, pretty quality starts after that. 4.
Yeah, it's 4 straight before this. He had a sub 2.5 ERA.
Yeah, so like again, this was awful. Like he just the command wasn't there. He wasn't finding, his zone. He was leaving pitches out to hit. Like just every single thing you could say negatively about a start, you can probably apply to what Kade Povich did. And then you talk about Tate, and you talk about her. It's just like pitcher after pitcher after pitcher came in. We usually talk about this team as like, the cardiac comeback kids, and like they never give up and this, that. I'm not saying they gave up, but you could kind of tell this was just get me the hell out of this game type of game for the Orioles today. Because at that point, like you're blowing through your bullpen. I'm glad that Tate and Irvin were able to give them 2 each instead of, just crazy. I mean, again, still wasn't great in terms of results. But these are the types of games where it can be really tough. And I mean, look, really happy the All-Star break has come up just to get these guys some rest after that gauntlet of a June. But this is why the Orioles need pitching. This is why we have been saying the Orioles need pitching, whether it is in the form of a starter or a reliever. I know, Zach, we're both on. Yeah, exactly. We're both on the record saying we would prefer them to get both. Again, what my actual prediction is they'll get a starter and move Suarez to the bullpen, and that'll be their bullpen help. But again, maybe they do go out there and get a couple of guys. But I think there are more in-house options relief-wise than there are starters. But then there's the conversation about McDermott. And, like, what does that look like? Is he a September call-up? Do you call him up earlier and see what he has? Is Vespi going to get another shot? What are they going to do with – he should. I mean, I think it was – Vespi's send-down was, I think, a numbers game for them.
Yeah, without doubt.
I don't know what their plan is with Aiken. I don't know what their plan is with Baker. I think Aiken to me is the bigger problem right now than Baker, even though both of them were terrible a couple days ago. But it's this whole conversation we've been having about. I mean, I'll throw out a hypothetical in the chat, or you yourself, Zach, can answer it. I mean, if the Orioles put out this pitching staff, this bullpen in a playoff series after Game 2, I mean, who do you trust?
I was going to say you better win the first 2.
Right.
You better win the first 2. And then you better hope with off days and stuff that you can have Burns pitch Game 4. Like, you better hope there's, off days in between. You better hope this is the ALCS where, you're able to pretty much just go a 3-man rotation. Like, that would be if you would have to win the first 2. You're just probably going to lose the third. And then you would have to go out there and hope Burns or G-Rod, Burns could go Game 4 pretty much, and then you can win that.
Yeah, and so here's the reality, just to give it a little bit of context, right? The Orioles, their bullpen should look at least a little different after the deadline. Whether it is internally, you bring guys up, or whatever it is, you add another guy from outside the organization. But they're also going to have to get through this. They're going to have to compete for a World Series with most of these guys in their bullpen. We are not going to see a 6-man shift in this bullpen after the deadline. It's not going to be that way. Correct. Where, yes, they should make 1 or 2 moves, maybe 3 if we want to get a little spicy here. But they're not just going to send everyone and DFA everyone down and just get all new guys up. They're going to have to go through this stretch with guys. Obviously, Kimbrel will be in there, Perez, and we can go down the list here. But there'll probably be 1 or 2 of Aiken or Baker or Tate or whoever you want to put in there, Irvin, Suarez, depending. So the help should and needs to come. We both agree with that. But it's not going to be in the form of a completely revamped and restructured bullpen. If the Orioles want to win the World Series this year, guys in the bullpen who are currently in it have to step up, along with the help that hopefully they bring in.
And we talked about this literally last night. Look at the Rangers last year. Their bullpen was bad. The Rangers had a bad bullpen. They tried to shift it all too. They went out early and got Aroldis Chapman, and he was bad in big moments for them. Really bad. And it went into I remember, ALDS. the big thing was if the Orioles can get to the Rangers bullpen, you're golden. You're going to win the series if you can get to their bullpen. And game one, they got to it. Aroldis Chapman starts losing it, and we've both said we were both there. It felt like the Orioles were about to pull off the comeback. But out of nowhere, the bullpen got hot and just shut everyone down. And that's, like you said, it's not going to be, oh, the Orioles just got a whole new bullpen at the deadline. They're not getting 7 guys. But what's going to happen is you get 1 or 2 guys, whether that's you trade for a guy, you get a McDermott, Vespi's back in the bullpen. I think no matter what, I don't know if they get a headliner bullpen guy, a guy that they're throwing out in the 8th or 9th, but I do think they're going to get guys that can pitch in the 6th and 7th and be reliable. But that's not going to win you the World Series. Acquiring a guy to pitch reliably in the 6th or 7th inning doesn't win you a World Series. What's going to win them the World Series is exactly what you said. The guys that are in there right now, come October with a few additions, they all step up, they get hot, and then they can go from there. But it definitely is not going to be some big, okay, there's 7 new guys in the bullpen comes August.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, an interesting game, I guess, to play is, and I'll ask you the question, and in chat, if you're watching, put your answer in the chat. What concerns you more right now? Is it the runners in scoring position problem, or is it the pitching / I guess, bullpen?
It's going to be pitching / bullpen. I still trust this offense. Like, I trust this offense more than I trust this pitching staff outside of Burns and G-Rod. Like, I think the pitching staff is what's going to get fixed. And I just don't – I think they have enough offensively when you add in, hopefully, the Kobe Mayos. You get Heston Kjerstad a little bit more playing time. You know, stuff like that. I think we start seeing those guys. And if it's August, we have Kobe Mayo up, potentially like a Jackson Holiday's up, and we see like these top-end prospects coming up and stuff still isn't happening, then I think runners in scoring position. But I just don't even see – I can't see them acquiring a bat offensively at the deadline. We've talked about it a few times with how loaded this team is. I just really can't imagine them getting a bat at the deadline. So my biggest thing is still fixing the bullpen / back end of the rotation right now. That's my biggest concern.
No, yeah, I'm not expecting an offensive addition at the deadline. I mean, again, if you're going to get an offensive addition, it's going to be like Kobe Mayo. Like, that's who it will be. And I think that is your depth. And I know, Zach, you say, like, everybody hates when teams do that. It's like, oh, our acquisition is actually this guy who's already been on the team for like 2 years or 4 years or whatever. But they do it all the time. Now, the question is, when do we see Kobe Mayo? Because we've talked about he's ready, but then we also talk about how they have like 4 other guys who are also ready. Mayo probably fast tracks. But do we see like a Ramon Urias DFA? Do we see like where's the roster spot for him is the question.
It's gotta be Ramon, and I don't think it's a Ramon DFA. I think it's a Ramon trade. I think he's gonna be included in a move at the deadline in which one of these teams is in that weird spot where, because Ramon has control. I believe he has at least 2 more years after this of team control. And so he's kind of one of those guys that he's a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. He can play Gold Glove second base. He's proven that he can be a decent hitter at the major league level, nothing special, but he can go out there and produce for you at an above average, major league hitter, and he can play anywhere in the field. I mean, he has value to teams, and I think a team that's trying to just shore up the major league roster in a trade. And so I'm not sure if it would be the White Sox, something like that. Maybe they take on, I think, add in Ramon Urias, knowing that it helps them clear a spot for Mayo or Holiday, assuming I think we all agree it's going to be Mayo first.
Yeah. I just, where, and I saw the question in chat, where do you put him? And who loses playing time because of it?
If Mayo's up and Holiday's not, it's you put Mayo at third and Westbrook plays second.
Yeah. Yep.
You can DH him. I mean, you can play him. He's been playing first a lot for Norfolk over the past week. He's been playing first a lot. And that's almost like that feels like GM speak, like when GMs do stuff and you're like, oh, it feels like something's happening here. When everyone's been talking about, oh, can he play third at the major league level? He might have to play some first to get playing time. Then suddenly he's in playing first right after Michael Elias said that they think we'll see him soon. I think they're just trying to get him a little bit more comfortable over there to potentially maybe come up and be I don't want to call it a utility guy because first, third, and DH isn't really utility, but he's a guy that at least would have some sort of, you can play him 2 or 3 spots.
All right, and the more you can do, obviously, the more value you have, the more you can contribute to the team. But this is such I don't think, I do want to put it in perspective how rare of a good problem this is for the Orioles, where it is very rare that a team has this many MLB or should be in the MLB prospects that are still down in AAA. And I love the way you put it, Zach. I still use this a lot. Is 4 of these guys, we want to talk about Norby, Stowers, Mayo. I mean, we can go on and on. These guys will be in the lineup the day they're traded to probably 28 of 30 teams or whatever it may be. So that's where it's almost like, how long do you hold on to some of these guys? Where are the spots? There aren't going to be spots for everybody. That's why I think we both think that Norby probably doesn't have a long-term future on this team. Stowers might not have a long-term future on this team. It's just there aren't enough spots, and we can revisit this conversation in the offseason when there are going to have to be decisions made on Tony and Mullins and Hayes and those veterans and what path they want to choose with those guys, and whether that is just a full, we're going to make this outfield our young guys. But they're trying to win now. They're trying to win this year. We have to answer those questions before the offseason, at least some of those questions before the offseason, because, yeah, that's true. It did. Yep, 30 out of 30. Would not disagree. And to make matters worse, the Yankees actually won today for the first time in what seems like 5 years. So
yeah, that's a tough one. But hey, still 2 games up.
Yep, bad day all around. But unfortunately, vibes can't be high every single day. Although I
wanted to address this. It says if Mayo DHs, that puts O'Hearn on the bench. Not necessarily. I think it would more be you can have. I think you would see him more as a lefty against lefties. You'll automatically see Mayo playing third, and you would probably take Jorge Mateo's spot, obviously then moving Westbrook over. I think versus righties, they absolutely love Ryan O'Hearn. So honestly, I think versus righties, you would be more inclined to see him take Mountcastle's spot if they put him in there. So I don't really think O'Hearn loses at bats because he already only plays against righties, and they love what he can do. So I think he's kind of locked in versus righties, but definitely versus lefties. Mayo, I think, would take over for Jorge's spot. Maybe he does just straight up DH versus lefties. He could be just that guy. That way you keep Mountcastle in. You can keep Jorge, who they love his speed and his ability to hit lefties. And then you see maybe you DH and get him at first versus righties every once in a while.
I'm going to ask you a big brain question here. If Kobe comes up, obviously there'd be a rotation at DH depending on matchups and whatnot. Do you think Adley catches more and DHs less with Mayo up?
I think that's happening in the second half regardless. I think that's been the plan the whole time is they're resting him up for this stretch. They talked about how last year he kind of burned out at the end, and you could see it in his play. So that's why he's DHing so much. That's why he's not catching every single day. And I think it's going to help him later down the line for sure. But Kobe Mayo gets added. I do think it then, in a lot of ways, it does kind of maybe take some at-bats away from McCann because you don't necessarily want to put McCann in over Kobe Mayo. So,
right. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean,
because right now I think McCann's kind of your big right-handed, who you can DH. They like him versus lefties, but I don't think if Kobe Mayo was up, they'd prefer him over Kobe.
Right. Yes. Yep. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, not a lot of runs, not a lot of words for what happened in today's game.
No.
Is there even like a 1-up, 1-down to do? I don't even think. 1-up, 27 down, more like.
Yeah, I said 1-up was Heston.
Yeah,
2 for 2.
That was gonna be mine too. Yeah,
I said or James McCann pitching, and then down was just like everything.
All right, let me ask you this then: was McCann the guy you wanted to see pitch?
I wanted Cowser just because I thought he would do something funny, but like McCann is definitely up there.
Yeah, Cowser would have been electric. I'll
I just feel like Cowser would have tried between his legs at least once.
You think? I think Hyde would have had to yank him after that.
But imagine he does that and then it just gets clobbered, like over the wall. Like that would be an all-time highlight in Major League Baseball.
Oh, that would never. Yeah, that'd be on YouTube compilations for the rest of the time. Yeah, that never. Yeah. I guess it's almost like the I'm leaving here with something.
I'm leaving here with something.
I'm leaving here with something. I had another thing to talk about. I forget what it was though. Actually, we can talk about what Orioles Bird Watcher said about when Kramer gets sent, or when we got Kramer back. They were saying Povich sent down. I hope the reaction to that has changed. Do you think Povich needs to get sent back down? Do you think they should give McDermott a shot? That would involve moving Irvin back to the rotation, I'd assume. So a lot of shuffling. I mean, it was a bad start. I think they still give him an opportunity.
I said earlier today on the stream, I said the way I do it is you throw this out. This didn't happen. This was just a horrific start after 4 really good ones to start his career. And then next time, after next game, if the same thing happens, he's just all over the place, he's getting hit, he can't get out of the first few innings, then you start to address it. Then you start going, okay, let's send him back down. Let's all do this. I don't want them to overreact and send him back down right after this because I feel like that'll hurt his confidence. I don't want to stunt his growth in that aspect. I think he's proven all he can down in AAA. I think he's done really well down there. He's proven he can beat those guys consistently. So now it's getting through the ups and downs of the majors, finding how to get outs, learning from these experiences. So I think they let him go another time, get him through the rotation. And we're going to know this pretty much tomorrow. If Kade Povich is sent down, I guess they would probably do it after tomorrow maybe, or depending on who the taxi squad guy is right now. I think we would pretty much find out tomorrow because they'd want someone else in the bullpen.
Yeah, I also think that we're gonna have a clear picture if everybody stays healthy, or at least the remaining guys stay healthy. We're gonna have a clear picture of what this rotation will look like once the trade deadline happens. You can still shuffle some guys around. You can move some guys around. I'm not saying it is set in stone, but I mean, I'd be at this point. I mean, we've talked about it for a while, but this feels like a when, not if, they acquire pitching. I'd be pretty shocked if Elias didn't make at least one move. But the question is how big of a move is going to be. If they made a Jack Flaherty type of move, I'm talking last year. If they made that Jack Flaherty type of move this year, would you be disappointed?
Yes. I would. As the only one?
Yes, is the only one.
Yeah. I was going to say, definitely if you're going to get an Eric Fetty, I believe is on that, it's probably a little bit higher than Jack Flaherty's level last year. If you're going to get one of those, Luis Severino, one of those guys, you go out and get him plus a bullpen arm plus I'm perfectly fine with it. If you go out and get one of them and go, all right, see you in October, that's okay, that was not what we needed.
Yeah, I mean, again, these first 3-4 months of the year are to assess where the team is. We are almost at the point where the deadline is here, and we have a very big sample size. And as Ryan has said, July is the month that he is now open to talking. Despite how much he hates hypotheticals, he is now open to talking about this stuff because we have a sample size now, right? If you were to, if you were to essentially say after a month, all right, they need to tear down the bullpen, get pitching help, that would be a bit of an overreaction of all right, let's see what happens these next other months. But now we have 3-4 months of tape, of film, of results. Now it's the time. And again, is it going to happen tomorrow? Last time I said that it did, so maybe. But I don't. Yeah. So although it was Thiago Vieira, so I guess it wasn't necessarily the gift that kept on giving. But yeah, you have trends now. So I don't know. We'll see what it is, but they definitely need pitching. And games like this certainly show you why, because there is an experience. There are just metrics where they struggle. And while they're going to have to rely on a bunch of different things to happen, they also can buff their team up, which a lot of other contenders are going to be trying to do as well. So you don't make a move to make a move. Obviously, it has to be the right move. But
yeah. And
I mean,
I agree
you have an opportunity to win a World Series this year. I think you got to maximize it.
Yeah, I agree with Tazwatcher. I think it happens right after the All-Star break. I think that's when we're going to start to see everything start to go down with everyone in the league.
Yep, I'm that way too. I don't, they have till the deadline. Like, I'm not going to criticize them about not making moves until the deadline is over, right? I mean, if another team makes a move, yeah.
I was going to say, until it's July 30th at 6:01 p.m., I'm not going to say that they're not adding enough, because we don't know. How many times, especially the MLB deadline, do these massive blockbuster deals happen with 3 minutes before the deadline? Like, it's like, oh, just breaking, they got it in right as, like, they waited to see what the best offer was, and boom, this happens. Like people forget that the Orioles were in on Dylan Cease last year up until like 17 minutes before the deadline. And then they were like, well, we're not getting him. And then they got Flaherty. And then what people don't kind of forget, they were trying to get another reliever. They were in multiple talks when the clock struck, I guess, 4:00 last year. But, these deals are up until the last second. They are trying to pull stuff off. So until it hits 6:00 on July 30th, you got to just see what happens. Then we can go back and say, hey, they didn't do this. They didn't do that. Hey, they improved here. But now this is a whole. We can play all that on July 30th at 6:01. But until then, we have to see what happens, because the MLB trade deadline is just nuts. It's nothing else. No other sport is like it, where you can see what feels like 20 to 30 players moved in like a 48-hour period.
I know you see those moves reported, like, they all have to be agreed upon, obviously, before the deadline time. But we see moves come in at like last year, 4:15 or 4:20. Yep. Like they cycle in. But I think the other part of the deadline, Zach, is the disappointment that people would have if they don't move one of their, I don't want to say top prospects, because obviously we've made the list of untouchables, but, for example, maybe a Norby or a Stowers or one of those guys. And there's a delicate balance here, because you don't just make a trade to make a trade. Or you don't just trade away prospects just to make a move. And if there is not a guy out there that's worth those guys, then there's not a guy out there that's worth those guys. But at the same time, it's like we said, how long he can continue to hold on to those guys. Is it for an off-season deal? Again, off-season deals don't help you this year, though. So that's that's the big conversation. Plus, as we've been very vocal about, trade deadline deals cost more than off-season deals. The Orioles would not get the Corbin Burnes deal they got now. It'd be much, even though it's, he's entering free agency and whatnot, it doesn't happen that way. Deadline deals are more expensive. Capital wise, you have to give up more. So it's that balance of, if you want to go out there and get one of these top pitching guys on the trade market, even though they're not like Corbin Burnes-esque, unless, we don't know if Skubal or Steele's going to get moved or not, but if those two guys are off the market, then it's the Severinos, the Fettys, the Crochets, the, go on and on and on. Are those guys worth a Connor Norby or Kyle Stowers or one of those players? It's a tough call. I mean, it's essentially
but they have to do it. I think I think they understand with how back jammed they are, the backlog. They are guys like Norby and Stowers are as available is. They are okay with giving them up, because they know that they are so deep at those positions with prospects. And even look behind Stowers. You have guys like the Dylan Beavers, the Judd Fabians, the Enrique Bradfield. Why am I blanking on his first name, Etzel, but who just got promoted to Bowie? They're guys on them. You know, these guys are coming and they are talented. So it's like the longer that they sit in AAA, it's not helping anyone. It's not helping their career. So I think they almost would like to be traded as well.
Yeah, and we heard Norby, and no, he didn't request a trade, obviously, but he's like,
Yeah.
I know I'm a good minor leaguer. I want to be a good big leaguer. And he knows he could be a good big leaguer. But realistically,
also Hudson Haskins.
Yep. But like, where's the playing time? I mean, you have a good problem if you're the Orioles. I think they did. The Burns move is essentially what you have to do. You have a surplus at a certain position with prospects. You have a clear need. So you throw together a deal with the guy that you're not going to choose, which was Joey Ortiz. They chose Westberg. You give up DL Hall as well as a pitching prospect or just a pitcher in general. And then you get the competitive balance picks, which, again, now it's different how you can maneuver those around and trade them. That's the type of thing you have to do. Where, again, when they have this whole like young outfield thing, Kowser and Heston and Stowers and all these guys, there's just not a clear path for every single prospect they have to play. They all can't be in the 5 or 10 year plan. Some of these guys have to be moved for more win now pieces. And the Orioles, again, if everything goes right, hopefully it does, their window is very long and very wide open. But at the end of the day, you have to have a balance of win now pieces and future pieces. Your future pieces can be win now pieces too, but there are only so many spots on the diamond. So that's the problem they have to figure out.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because I think they are going to have to give people up. You have to give up talent to get talent. You know, last year they obviously gave up guys that I don't think they necessarily would. Like going back, I don't think they would have done it again, seeing how it worked out. I think Drew Rom, then you had Prieto, Zach Showalter. They wanted to see, they love those guys, but unfortunately you have to take risks. You have to give up talent that you could be missing out on because you have to go try to win it this year.
Yeah, and it's different this year than it was last year. Again, I've kind of given my thoughts on what I thought last deadline was for them, which is, wow, this team has really come out of nowhere. Let's see what we have, but not give up the farm and see what it is. Where this year, we know what they are. We know they're a World Series contender. It's a lot different this time around, which is why, going back to the original question, it wouldn't be a disappointment if the Orioles had a Jack Flaherty level move based off what the last year move was, because this isn't what that team is anymore. This team is, they've matured. They have, albeit in a sweet playoff experience, it's a different time this time around. They should take a bigger swing and maybe multiple swings. Who knows?
Yeah, and we'll see. So, we're 24 days away. So it'll be interesting.
We'll be doing something. Whether it's on this channel, another channel, Ryan Ripken Show, Kevin and Zach Reacts, we'll be having all types of
we will be live
trade deadline coverage. Oh, yeah.
Don't worry. You will be seeing everything go down here live. But
that's gonna be fun.
Shitty game. Been on for 46 minutes. It's just one of those games, guys. Just one of those games. What game? You know, that's just what I'm going to start doing. What game? I said when the stream started, we were going to talk about it a little bit, and then we were all forgetting about it. And now we're at the point where we're forgetting about it. On to tomorrow, win the series in Oakland. Last game ever for the Orioles in the Coliseum. Go out with a bang. So, yeah, Kevin, any last words before we head out of here?
No, yeah, just glad this one was not the last game. The Coliseum, that would have been a very sour taste in everybody's mouths. But yeah, you know what? We say it all the time. Just flush it, move on. 162 games. You can't win every single one. Not every single loss is going to be a pretty loss either. So games like this happen. The Orioles beat the Yankees 17-5 a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
These games happen. So sometimes we're on the winning side. Sometimes we're on the losing side. Obviously, we do our takeaways and look at trends, but baseball is baseball. Things happen. I'm not panicking.
Exactly.
They definitely need pitching, but I'm not panicking.
Yeah, I'm not panicking at all. It's a random game on July 6th. This will not make or break the season. Throw it out. And we will be back tomorrow after the rubber match between the Oakland Athletics and the Baltimore Orioles to cover that and break down what goes on there and hopefully an Orioles win. But thanks for tuning in for another episode of Kevin and Zach Reacts post-game show, and we will see you tomorrow. Kevin, do something cool.